Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 237 of a year of change. Today's documentary, I've been sort of flip-flopping back and forth, trying to figure out whether or not I should actually put it up. I was a little hesitant to do this for a number of reasons. Just sort of in keeping with what we've been looking at with carbs and stuff like that, it's related to the Atkins diet. Now, I've been very vocal about the Atkins diet and pretty much any diet in general, just the sort of thing where if you restrict your intake, not just your intake, but if you restrict the types of foods you can have, somewhere along the line you're going to be missing out. You're going to be missing on vitamins or minerals or protein or carbs or sugars or something that your body actually needs. So, pretty much across the board, don't really recommend it because it's not something that is sustainable. However, the other reason, or actually not however, plus, the other reason is, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about why I tend to sort of gravitate towards documentaries from the BBC. Because there doesn't seem to be that big dramatic, dun dun dun, you're going to die, everything is horrible sort of presentation. This one actually has that they go so far overboard with so many things. It's ridiculous. But the thing is that even though I don't necessarily agree, or not necessarily, I don't agree with the Atkins diet, you can't deny that it works for some people. I've had friends that have gone on it and it's worked for them. But it's not how I want to lose weight. It's not how I think we should be losing weight. I don't think it's overall the healthiest way. I think because you cut out so many things off of it, including vegetables and fruits and stuff like that, that I think we do need a wider variety. We just need to, eat normal portions. So I'm not a big proponent of the Atkins diet. However, as much as I don't agree with it, I have to admit that yes, it can work for people. So it's another reason why I sort of didn't really want to put this up. But part of doing what we're doing is being open to things that we may not necessarily agree with, but the facts sort of stare you in the face and say, okay, you know what? The people do get results from it. So that's why I'm putting it up there. Now, it's not just about the diet. It's basically what it is. There's no real reason why the Atkins diet should work. Because essentially people say, well, you can eat as much as you want and you still lose weight. You just can't eat, rice or bread or certain vegetables, anything that would be considered, carbohydrate. So people tend to eat much more along the lines of like proteins and fatty foods and stuff like that. And of course, it does eventually end up working. So the documentary itself is just them sort of looking at it going, why does it work? Because it really shouldn't. There is no reason why it should work. Scientifically speaking, if you are eating more calories than you're burning, you should be gaining weight. So they're trying to figure out exactly how this works because it's not a simple matter of saying, well, we're just going to take out carbohydrates and that'll be it. Then everything's going to be fine because carbohydrates make you fat. Well, they don't. Overeating makes you fat. But when they're looking at the Atkins diet, they're trying to figure out, okay, well, what's happening? Why is this working when everything is telling us that it shouldn't? So that's pretty much what it looks at. They do sort of go to like a melodramatic place with it. There's lots of dun 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 and pictures of people just eating and eating and eating and eating, which is kind of gross because they just keep going back to it over and over and over. And it's not anything normal that people would eat. There's one, and it's a guy with a giant block of what looks like Parmesan cheese just going hump, 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 hump. No one eats Parmesan cheese that way. Mozzarella maybe, but not Parmesan cheese. Of all the cheeses, that's just disgusting. Anyway, when you're watching it, really sort of set aside all the melodrama if you can. It takes a while to sort of set it aside. Because by the end of it, you're just rolling your eyes because it's so ridiculous and it's so over the top. And I think that they're trying to sort of... I think it's part of a series from the TV show that does different things. And this is just one of the things that they were doing. I think there's an ad at the end of it where it says that they're going to talk about cars or something on the next one. But I think that's where that comes from. It's just sort of that... That's what I'm looking for. Tabloid feel to it. Where, they're saying, well, we're getting out information, but it's not interesting enough. People aren't waving their arms going, I don't know what to do. So we need to obviously, get them all excited and terrified. So put dramatic music in there and put little gremlins digging fat out of your eyes or whatever it was. They don't actually do that, so don't worry. But when you can sort of scrape away all the drama and the bullshit and just look at the information, it's still information. And although I'm never going to go on the Atkins diet, I wouldn't really recommend people go on any diet, just because it's something that you're saying, well, I'm going to just stop eating this one thing altogether. And we know that that simply isn't going to work. We've tried so many of them before. I mean, that's a really common question that people get asked when they do the little tag things, which I've still yet to do. Like weight loss questions. How many diets have you tried? Or which diets have you tried? So it's never, what diet did you try that worked? The first time. Because it never happens that way. So although it's a very successful thing, people have lost weight, it's not for me. Once again, though, however, if you're looking at going on something like that, don't consult me. Consult your doctor. That's what they're there for. That's what they're paid for. You need to go to them and say, here's what I want to do. Is this safe for me? Because it's fine for some and not fine for others. Unless your doctor's a pill pusher, in which case you probably shouldn't listen to them. But generally you should. I don't know. Think for yourselves. You're adults, for fuck's sake. Come on. Anyway, when you're looking at the documentary, there's a lot of information in there that they'll... Just like any sort of tabloid show, they'll go, but there's a secret lurking in the darkness. And then it comes back after a commercial and they go, but there's really not a secret in the darkness. It's just that we didn't know about this until last year. Till next year. Time travel in dieting. Look at that. All sorts of fancy stuff. So it's really tough to sort of get rid of all the extraneous parts of the documentary. But the information there itself that didn't come out right. The information there it's still good information. Not to spoil the ending for you, but basically what they look at is, why does the diet work when everything that science tells us says that it shouldn't? And it's not because, it's sort of because of what you're eating, but it's not because you're cutting out carbs necessarily. It's the fact that because it's so restrictive, the stuff that you're eating, they'd say, does it make you feel fuller for longer? Is it something that your brain doesn't switch, or your brain switches off earlier, so you're actually taking in less calories? So they did find that there are some that are eating fewer calories, and that's why they're losing weight in the long run anyway. But they do touch on a few things, like there are really no long-term effects that have been studied for Atkins, so they don't know if it's good or bad. They try to steer, it seems like the people who did the documentary are trying to steer towards the fact they're going, there's been no studies, we don't know what sort of damage is going to be done. No, it's just that they don't know yet. Could be good, could be bad. There just aren't any studies out there. They have done some short-term studies where they say, people do lose weight. Cholesterol actually improves, which sort of goes against what they thought it was going to do. So there are some benefits to it, obviously. It wouldn't be as successful as it is if there weren't. But they just don't know what the long-term effects are. And there could be nothing. It could be beneficial all the way around. But for what I'm trying to do, and what I think people generally should do is, because, again, our eating habits we didn't get fat because we ate too many carbs. We got fat because we ate too many everythings. So it's just saying, I'm just going to cut this out, but I'm still going to gorge myself on sausage and cheeseburgers, and I don't know if you can have cheeseburgers here. Well, without the bun, maybe. So what's the point? So, but it doesn't really fix the issue that we have with food to begin with. Yes, it restricts our intake, which is what every diet does. It's just that it lets you eat the high sugar, or not sugar, I don't think you can have sugar either, the high fat, high salt content foods that you really, really enjoy. Things that we're just sort of hardwired to enjoy. So, of course, you're going to say, well, this is much easier than other diets, but we're missing key things here. Cutting out fruits and vegetables, it seems counterintuitive to me. But again, not a doctor. Same thing with just cutting out carbs entirely. We do need them. And although, yes, obviously it does work that you lose weight. I've known a couple of people that have gone on it. They have lost weight. But they do get those insane cravings, and, inevitably they fall off the wagon again. And it's because the reason why we're fat isn't because of bread. It's because we have emotional and psychological issues, and there's control issues with food, and it's just we need to change how we look at it that way. My nose is very itchy. I'm okay. So, there's a number of different reasons why I was going, do I want to put this up? I don't really want to say I recommend it, but there is information in there. There's opinions in there I don't agree with, but there's also information in there that is helpful. Not necessarily because we're saying, well, we're going to switch over and we're going to start doing the Atkins diet now. We aren't. Nothing's changing. We're staying the way that we are. We aren't cutting out any foods yet. We're just, balancing things out. But because it's information about carbohydrates that are in there, oh, my nose is so itchy. Sorry. Because there's information there. I'm not going to get through this. Anyway. All right. I probably have a cat hair or something. Anyway. Sorry. Just pick my nose in front of the camera. So, where was I? Yeah, we aren't changing anything. There we go. But because we're sort of taking these 2 weeks and looking at carbohydrates, there is information in there that's going to be helpful. So that, at the very least, even if you don't take anything away from it that you're going to apply, it's still related to what we're trying to do. If for no other reason, then you can say, okay, well, this gives us a little hint about protein that we're going to be doing later on. And there's a hint about fiber that we're going to be doing. And fiber, they cut that out as well, which is really odd. It seems sort of, I think that's part of the reason why at the very beginning they sort of talk about, why doctors are going, this isn't healthy. You're cutting out vegetables, you're cutting out fiber. You shouldn't really be doing that. It's not healthy. And yet people were still losing weight, and it didn't make sense to them. So they started looking into it a little bit deeper. But, cutting out vegetables, cutting out fiber, things that you would generally assume to be healthy, and they are. We know that they are. Don't panic. It seems sort of weird to do that as part of a diet. But they started looking at it a little deeper, and they found it's not really because you're not eating any carbs that's doing it. It's because your diet has changed so drastically that, well, I won't go into it because you're going to watch it anyway. Short version is that cutting out the carbs themselves, it's not really the core reason why the diet works. It's like saying, well, like we were talking about before, the butter diet. It's, well, I eat only butter. That's the only thing I eat, and I have 1 teaspoon a day. Well, then you're losing weight because you're only having 1 teaspoon of butter. It doesn't matter what you're eating. It's the fact that your diet has changed so drastically. Your body's adapting, and yes, of course you're going to lose weight. So they do go into that in a little bit more detail. But it's just, I really sort of want to put that warning up there just to say, take all the melodrama and the daytime talk show, dramatic music and all the other stuff. Take that just in stride and sort of filter through that just to get to the information, because the information itself is pretty good. And that's the real reason why I'm still putting it up there. Not just for the fact that even though I don't agree with it, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that I don't agree with it. If it's something that I, am vehemently against, then no, I'm not going to support it, obviously. But this is something that has worked for quite a few people. So I can't deny that it works, because that would be stupid. I just don't agree with it. So I think there are better ways. And in general, they say that you lose 1 to 2 pounds a week on it anyway, which is what we're doing. And we haven't cut anything out. So I figure, you know what? It's working for us. And we don't have the stinky breath either. That goes along hand in hand with that. Which they do talk about in there as well. Because you get all stank-ass breath from the Atkins diet. So there. For those of you that are out there that are thinking, maybe I should do it. Well, your mouth is going to smell like a toilet. So enjoy that little bit of information. But along with the other stuff in there, there's, it is a good bit of information all the way around for it. Whether or not you actually apply anything to it, and I really wouldn't recommend that you do. But again, your doctor's going to know much more than I am. So anyway, I'll go put that in the recommended viewing playlist. It's going to be way down at the bottom. It's just about the Atkins diet. There's a little blurb about actually Dr. Atkins himself. They don't really touch on that too much. But they do sort of go through the history of how he was sort of scoffed at, and then how people started having success with it, and where it's going now. So it's a nice little timeline. I don't know what that was. Flowy timeline, timey-wimey thing. But for right now, I'm going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.